Well, help me welcome Howard Storm. Thanks so much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
And some people were asking me, you're going to have Howard Stern? No, better, Howard Storm. So you were a tenured university professor and an atheist when this accident happened and you died.
Yes.
And it changed your life completely. Why don't you tell us what happened that day?
On June 1st, 1985, at 11 o'clock in the morning, on the next to the last day of our 3-week tour of Europe, I had a perforation of the small stomach, the duodenum, and it took me right down to the ground. It was the most terrifying, painful experience I'd ever had in my life. I didn't know what was going on. My wife called the desk at the hotel. They called an emergency service. A doctor came within a very short time, and he knew exactly what was wrong and made it clear to us that if I didn't have surgery immediately, I would die within a matter of a few hours. So he called an ambulance service. They took me to the big public hospital in Paris, Cochin, and I was taken in the emergency room, examined by a couple more doctors. They said the same thing. You have to have surgery now. And he made it pretty clear that an hour would probably be too late, that it had to be now. So I was then taken rapidly over to the surgical hospital, but unfortunately, because it was a Saturday, there was no surgeon available to do anything. So I was parked in a room and basically kind of forgotten. So I was left in that room for hours, and as the time went by, no medication, nobody took my blood pressure, anything. The situation, I knew I was dying, and nobody would do anything. I was never given any medication of any type, and at 8:30 that night, a nurse came in and said they were unable to locate a doctor and they would try and get one the next day. The doctors in the United States told me my maximum life expectancy was, 5 hours in this experience. And the pain had been unbearable for hours. I knew I was dying. So I told my wife goodbye, and we made our goodbyes, and I went unconscious, and I awoke from that unconsciousness, and to my absolute delight and surprise, I felt not only wonderful, but I was more alive than I'd ever been in my entire life. All of my senses were greatly heightened. My vision, my hearing, my taste, my touch, my smell. It was just like I was more alive than I am right now.
And did you realize you had died?
It would never occur to me that I died because I was really alive for the first time in my life. And
could you see your body?
Well, when I saw my body, it was extremely upsetting, and I refused to believe that that was my body, because that body was meat, it was stuff, it was just like, that's nothing, I'm alive, that's not who I am. And I heard people calling me outside the room, and they seemed okay, and they were saying, Howard, hurry, come, let's go. And so I went over to the doorway of the room. In the light of the room and out in the gray, kind of unlit hallway was a group of people staying out of the light of the room. And I said, I'm sick, I need surgery. Are you from the doctor? And they said, we know all about you, hurry, come with us. There's no more time to talk about this, we gotta go. And
they seemed friendly, everything?
Oh yeah, I thought it was hospital people coming to take me to my surgery. It seemed okay. And I went with them, and they took me on a long journey, which ultimately led into complete darkness. And at this point, I realized this is all wrong. This is very, very bad. These people are not here for my benefit. And I said, I'm not going with you any further. And they said, oh, yes, you are. You've got to go further. And so they began to push and pull at me, and I fought back with them as hard as I could try to get them off me. And
were these people?
They were people. They weren't demonic beings. They weren't monsters. They were people. And they wanted to elicit as much pain in me as possible because they had nothing better to do. They had utterly lacking in any sense of compassion or caring. And in this world of darkness and nothing, all they could do was to subjugate each other to their sadistic desires.
You think this is what Jesus talked about, of the outer darkness?
More than anything else, Jesus said you'll be cast out into the outer darkness where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth, where the worm never dies. I mean, that's how he described the negative experience of people that don't reconcile themselves with God.
Well, and it became, I know, very traumatic, and you told me about it yesterday, and we'll hear more of that next week.
Yeah, it's a lot worse than I have begun to go into. Yeah.
But something happened after that changed your life completely. I mean, even to the point of leaving a tenured college profession and becoming a pastor, a Christian pastor.
I was totally ripped up. I looked like roadkill. You know, I was just destroyed. And in that utter hopelessness and despair, I remembered being a child, being in Sunday school, singing Jesus Loves Me, and most importantly, remembering believing as a child, as an innocent child. You know, there's a wonderful line in the Bible, suffer the little children to come unto me, do not stop them, for such of these that will inherit the kingdom of God. That's what we need to draw on, is that simple trust and love. And when that came to me out of utter desperation, no theology, no understanding, no nothing, just desperation.
Because you've been a devout atheist.
Yeah. Right? You know, it's like, I want that. I want what I had when I was a kid, you know, which I had mocked and denounced and ridiculed my whole adult life and tried to turn my students away from that, to my shame. And I called out, Jesus, please save me. And with that, a tiny light appeared in the darkness, and it got brighter and brighter and brighter and came over me. And out of this light came hands and arms, and he reached down and touched me. And when he touched me, all the gore, which I had not seen before, but now saw in his indescribably brilliant brightness, just dissolved away. And physically, I became whole, but much more importantly than that was, as he touched me, I was filled with his love, which is indescribably greater than any love I've ever. I wish I had another word, because the love that we experience in this world is not comparable to his love, which is so overwhelming. And the hands went underneath me, around my back, and he picked me up, held me like a mom, like a dad, and held me hard up against him. And I put my arms around him and held him, and he loved me and made me know that it's okay. And he was like rubbing my back, and it was sort of like, it's all right now, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
It's real as...
Oh, I love him. And as he was doing that, we started to leave this place of nothing but torment and pain and agony. And as we're traveling up, I see off in the distance this enormous center of light with all kinds of activity around it, like a mega galaxy of light. And I go, oh, I'm such a piece of garbage. He's made a terrible mistake. I don't belong here.
Why did you say that?
Because I was. I mean, Jesus came into, I'm not talking about a trash heap, I'm talking a garbage dump, I'm talking a cesspool of filth. And he touched me! Why would he touch me? I'm filth. And he restored me. And he loved me. And he's taking me there, and I thought, he's made a terrible mistake. He should put me back where I belong. And he spoke to me, and he said, we don't make mistakes. You do belong. I'm like, and I go, and I realized I hadn't said that. I had thought that. And I thought that. Do you know what I think? And he said, I know everything you've ever thought. And I went, oh no, that's bad. Can I tell him what I thought next?
Yeah, tell him.
I thought about a woman without her clothes on. And he thought that was so funny. Jesus thought it was funny, and I thought, he thinks I'm funny! And it was like so great, and I thought, if he knows everything I've ever thought, I've got nothing to hide. It's good. I mean, we're tight. And I just want to say that, you know, people talk about his love all the time, but I want to introduce a different word in here. Really, a really complex, important word. He likes us. He made me. I mean, and I knew, and he explained this to me very deliberately and carefully, that he made me. And he doesn't make junk, and he likes me. He does not like the things that I do that are destructive to myself, destructive to the people that I'm in relationship with, or destructive in God's plan and purpose and love for me. He doesn't like those. He doesn't like our sin, but he loves us and likes us. And the reason why he doesn't like the sin is he wants us to be better than that. You know, he just wants us to be wonderful. And that's what I've been trying to do. And of course, I've had lots of failures, and I've had a few successes. But the thing that I know, and he made it really clear to me, is the intention, the effort to be good, to be loving, to be kind, to follow him, is what pleases him, not the success. It's been really hard for me to figure this all out, but I want to pass this on. He doesn't expect me to be Billy Graham or, you know, anything. He just wants me to be really good Howard, you know?
That's very freeing.
Just like my mom wanted me. She didn't care what I became, just as long as I was a good one.